All right. Okay, we do have a quorum, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 12:03. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Egan?
Here.
Ms. Lasky?
Yep.
Mr. Jeff Dotz?
Here.
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Ms. Goodman? Mr. Adam Dotz?
Present.
Ms. Kaminsky?
All right, and you have an agenda sent out to you. You'll have an approval for that.
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Public comment. Do we have?
Yes, I do.
Mhm.
I am of the public.
Yeah.
So. Got from a letter. Thank you. And I think I didn't know.
Thank you.
April Sad, I live on the south side of Manistee, and I am apparently a destination for the sightseeing plane. And it cost me a lot of sleep last summer. I was working the night shift. It has got to be, there's years where it's been worse. And I started recording the times that it flew over my house. I'm starting in July because in June it was pretty bad. Close to 10 times a day, and it flies directly over the top of my house. It's very loud. It wakes me up. I'm trying to sleep. It's like at 10 in the morning. And I don't know why it has to fly directly over my house. I live on 15 acres, and it's an isolated, it's a quiet setting. And I am looking for something that will remedy this situation. It's mostly the plane that flies over is the N80112. I believe it has a blue bottom.
Mhm.
And it really doesn't show up on like tracking software, at least the one I use, Flight Aware. So it was released in October 9. When I look, I don't always look. So generally, these times represent. Usually, I try to get a visual look at the plane, so I'm not mistaking it. It's just a lot of noise, very disruptive.
Looks like right on 15 minutes. That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, it flies
One day.
20 every time. Some days. I wasn't home every day, and it doesn't. If it rains, it doesn't fly. It's sun comes out, it likes to fly. It doesn't fly. It's not flying now. For the off season, so windows are closed. I'm not saying it's gonna come up either.
It's Murphy Road that you live on.
Yes, I live on Murphy Road. It's sort of right on the end. It's on the south side of Manistee County, and it's close to the lake. And it's kind of where the plane turns around mostly just past my house, flies over my house, then it turns to head back north and towards the lake.
Mhm.
But yes, I am quite desperate to not be a sightseeing destination. I think I have a nice barn and it's an attractive property, but it is definitely harming my quality enjoyment of my property.
All right. All right, well, we can certainly, talk about that, we can certainly look into that. And, looks like they're flying probably over the high school and that way. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to?
Well, this is not the first time this came up. It's come up several times over the years, correct?
Yes, I brought the letters that I had sent before, and one was in 2021, and I believe the other was in,
We do not, I wouldn't tell you anything different that I've told you in the past, that we do not, this board is not here to dictate light plans for contractors or what have you. I don't know if there's a rectification for what you're inquiring and asking for. Yes, that would be up to Barry, if he's the one flying that, if that's a concern. It's up, you know, I would tell you, whoever's flying the plane, that's probably up to them, the path that they take and what height. I'm sure there's regulations regarding heights, but this board is not here to dictate travel paths. That's not our position.
Barry, do you have any comment on this?
Nothing new that I haven't said in the past. I think the pattern, I think they usually fly pattern altitude, which is 1,000 feet AGL. And, so they'd be 1,000 feet above the ground, during their flights around. They fly over my house too. And I just remember about how high it is when they fly over. Because they fly right directly over me. I would live I would just right uphill from there. Yeah. Well, you know, like Jeff says, we are really involved in the operation of the airport itself, but we can certainly talk to the pilot and find out what the route is that he's taking, and you know, certainly talk with him.
well, can I respond?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when I called the Flight Standards District Office, the area that I am in, it's only a 500 feet minimum, so it is lower than 1,000 feet. And the airport is within, the airport authority does have the ability to mitigate the negative impact or any impact of the airport and those planes on the community. And where I live, I don't live close to the airport. It's not a noisy setting. It's a quiet setting. And our plane does affect the quiet enjoyment that I have of my property. And that is part of the airport's responsibility. They can't just, you have control over the impact on the community. And making sure it's that it's not in an incongruous situation, not flying planes and making a lot of noise in an area that's quiet, that doesn't have that need.
Okay. A couple things I'll respond to there is, as you pointed out, the minimum is 500. Planes operate at 1,000. They're never at 500 feet. And to minimize the overall impacts, flight routes are chosen so that they fly over fewer people intentionally. That makes no sense. And we have adjusted our routes years ago to not fly. We used to fly directly over your house. Now we fly further to the north, more along the lines of flying over the high school and that property. So we have done things to accommodate you, but if the airspace is public use airspace, it would be similar if you came in and said, I live on a road and I don't like the fact that cars are using this road. Airplanes have a right to fly in the airspace that the FAA and federal government allows them flying. And you are asking me to give up my rights because you are not liking what I have the right to do.
Okay, but I do have a right to quiet enjoyment of my property, and you are flying directly over my house. I would say 99, with the exception of one day on those times, and I can tell you what day it is, that plane flies directly, makes a beeline, flies directly over the top of my house at less than 1,000 feet. It's definitely lower than it is when it's flying in the top.
I disagree with you on all of those.
But you do not have tracking software. I don't know if it's turned off, and it's not something that one can verify, because that plane very often is not trackable.
Anyone else have anything?
It's really no different if someone had a loud car or a loud motorcycle going out past the house, does the person have the right to be there? Yes. You know, does it meet the, is there a sound ordinance for a plane?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. It may be annoying, but again, it's not within our jurisdiction to even pursue. It just isn't.
Was this, I'm sorry, because I came in late, does this have to do with the airline or for,
No,
No.
the small planes.
okay, is this just the sightseeing plane?
Yes.
Okay.
If you get it on the news.
Do you guys, do you need another copy?
Sure,
No.
thank you.
All right, well, does anyone else have any other questions? Cindy, do you have anything in your mind that you'd like to?
I mean, is this the, I mean, we really don't have, like you said, probably jurisdiction over this, but is this due to your flights,
Or Beach Aviation Safety.
sightseeing flights? And you've already done something to try to reroute?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're flying over the school, that is to the north.
Yeah, they're pretty close to us. They fly almost over us at Bryant.
And where's that?
A little bit north of the high school, maybe 3 blocks.
Oh, I got
Yeah,
you.
and then Bryant, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm seeing it as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you're right around the corner from us. Yeah, we're all kind of close
Yeah.
together there.
Very, you turn back to the high school or do you proceed south?
Yeah,
Generally we'll go north from there.
So the high school is your southernmost boundaries,
That is what we're targeting. So we go from the airport, over along Manistee Lake, across our lake, across.
Okay, well, I mean, we're obviously taking it seriously enough to sit and discuss it with you.
I do
And,
appreciate it. I do have a picture of one of the routes, that was trackable, but it definitely goes farther south than at least at one picture that was flying south farther than a high school, and there's a couple of them I have. Maybe either of you would like to see that. And then there's, yeah, you can just. I should have been doing about 21.
Yeah, it's too dark for my old eyes to see.
I'm sorry, I can definitely turn, I could get low, but. Yeah, I think that's what we see how many times the plane was tracked and get
Mhm.
like a route.
Okay. Well, we'll look and see, if they're flying regularly over the high school. If they're going right over my house and then turning over the high school, I think that sounds like a pretty fair solution to the problem. Make sure they're at 1,000 feet and flying over the high school. that seems like a good workable solution.
Yeah, that
This
was
is a-
plenty far from my house.
Okay. All right. Well, does anyone else have anything else? Thank you. All right. And you're welcome to stay for the meeting.
Thank
All right, so the minutes were sent out. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Or,
All in favor?
you.
Anyone opposed? All right, and that takes us to the treasurer's report.
Susan was not able to be at today's meeting, so her report is as presented. If I can answer any questions, and I will try, but
What's the LA fifty panel? I think I'm looking at accounts payable. It's the
Very top line.
top row.
ADB, so that is a sign panel for part of our airport inspection, and told we needed to update those, even though we've been trying to postpone it, because they're all going to get changed as the lighting gets changed in the project. So we've been doing a few this year.
Any other comments, questions about, let's stick to the accounts payable. If not, do I have a motion?
What do you,
so move.
I'll second.
Mr. Egan,
Yes.
Ms. Lasky,
Yes.
Mr. Jeffrey,
Yes.
Mr. Becker,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman,
Yes.
Mr. Adamson,
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky,
Yes.
Okay, was there any movement on the 481 fund?
there is,
Okay.
on the second page, you'll see the, for Galaxy Electric for the lighting project.
Is that within budget, Barry?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Egan,
Yes.
Ms. Lasky, Mr. Jeffrey,
Yes.
Mr. Becker,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman,
Yes.
Mr. Adamson,
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky,
Yes.
And the trial balance. Comments, questions?
So this is the first month of our new fiscal year, is that right?
Correct.
Fuel cells, huh?
Yes. Wait. No, that should, fuel sales should not have been. Where are you seeing?
I went revenue, second from the bottom line below the.
Right.
1,400.
1426.
So in general, no, since this is October, yeah. So, I mean, so what we're seeing is, well, example, so Air was purchasing about 10,000 gallons of fuel a month, and Contour in October purchased 155.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think I was just
we,
looking at
we had
the budget for
decent
years.
general,
Yeah.
for the,
So disproportionate for, like a monthly amount for the rest of the year, but overall compared to previous years, it's not. I understand.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I've got a real quick question. And maybe this was touched on at the last meeting after I left, like, it was about 1 o'clock, but in, prior discussions, Barry, with respect to our budget, there was, talk about negotiating with Contour, to have them continue to buy fuel here. There were a few, income items that we were trying to ensure that income was relatively steady.
Right.
When we changed airlines, and there were a few ways that we could maintain that. It sounds as though we won't maintain it through fuel sales. Correct. Were we able to negotiate in our contracts increases elsewhere to offset the loss in fuel?
We did not, given the rush at that end, that was one of the things that just
That's fine.
escaped contemplation at that time. When we did the budget this year, we budgeted less fuel income, or less fuel flow fee income, anticipating that. But we did not, in the contract with Contour, try to make that, bring it back to a level that was comparable to Cape Air. Now, historically, Cape Air is really the only airline that has purchased significant amounts of fuel previously, like Contour. So, had a bump for a few years there. Normal, but it does have a budgetary impact.
Well, and it sounds like that's gonna be mitigated because we anticipated a decline in fuel sales, so we budgeted accordingly.
Correct.
Cool. Are there other line items in the budget that we didn't make a reduction, but because of Contours, we would find, that we would be having waning revenue?
The other area that is a potential, is in hangar rent. This concept for Cape Air was renting the large hangar for maintenance. Contour is currently not, so that could impact income. We don't find other lessees of that space. That's actually one of the things I'm going to talk about in my report. There's a couple related hangar leasing issues that one of the board to contemplate at that. So that is the other area that we could see reduced revenues as a result of the switch between Cape Air and Contour.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve it.
Support.
Mr. Egan,
Yes.
Ms. Lasky?
Yes.
Mr. Justin?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Mr. Adambound?
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Okay, for the committee reports, the biggest report is from the transition committee, and Jeff, Adam, and I met with Stephanie Ward on November 1st, and it was a long meeting, and we came up with kind of a timeline here, so I'm just going to kind of run down, and guys, you were in on the meeting, stop me, and Lisa also was in on the meeting, so stop me when I get off track. But summarize the number of points that are going to make the final decision of how the airport would be configured going ahead into the future. You know, financial service review of the 139 requirements, peer airports, that sort of thing. And Barry stopped me when I start getting off the rails here as well. But I just want to try and bring you up to speed as much as I can, as quickly as I can. And so synopsing the hour-long meeting. But Mead and Hunt is engaged in a study of peer airports, for lack of a better term, and come up with some recommendations. The timeline for that, I know you're wanting me to fast forward to that. It will be end of March, the 1st of April, that we're looking at for the final study to come in. We're going to be having bi-monthly meetings starting in December. One on the first Monday of the month, and then the other one will be right before every board meeting, as I recall. Yeah, but yeah. Okay, yeah, twice a month. So,
That's no problem.
so there we go. We're all clear with that. So that just brings everyone kind of up to speed on what's going on with that. It's pretty active. We'll have a firm date once they go over the information that Barry has sent them. It's a ton of information about staffing, equipment, et cetera, et cetera. If you want more detail, I'll be glad to dig into my notes here, but that's the gist of it. It looks like really the Muskegon Airport, of all things, is the closest comparable to us. And what they've done is they've contracted out with an outside company. And what is that name of that? Founders 3. And the F3 Aviation is the airport wing of it. They're into healthcare, real estate, aviation management, and marine management. So, yeah, so they do all of those things. But what they've essentially done is they just hired that company to run the airport. That company hires the manager. And that's the way it's done. The airport, it's not really an airport authority. It's an airport advisory, I think it is, buried down there.
Yes, but it's county owned.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's county board.
But I couldn't,
But they have an advisory committee.
and I think it's semi-active. I remember, because I met Ken, he's the airport manager down there. I met him, oh gosh, when was that? A couple of months ago when you and I were up in Traverse City. And it didn't sound like they were particularly active. I looked up to try to find some minutes from their meetings, and I couldn't find anything past about 2018. So I think they pretty much just turned it over. It looks like. Now now remember, this is just me going in and just looking up to see what they talked about.
They are active. I don't know why the minutes aren't available online, but I spent a good time a few weeks talking.
Okay.
Their new EAS air service
Right.
roughly the same time that we are. So
Denver Air, yeah.
Ken's at Muskegon.
Yeah. So anyway, that's about it. Any questions?
Mike?
Yeah.
My recollection from my notes, was I really, requested that they make every possible effort to have their report concluded and available for us at our March meeting by March 17th. And the only reason for really trying to push them to a firm date between March and April is so we don't lose a month. I think later we'll talk about Barry's contract, but as I laid out the timeline in the call, it was get that report to us for our March meeting, and it may take us one meeting or two to deliberate which way do we go. And it's not until we figure out which model do we take that we could go out to the marketplace and try to find a replacement for Barry.
Right.
So that was a March mead report, a May meeting where the county board and this board could be on the same page by May, and then probably takes a couple, 2-3 months to, go do a search for a director. So you wouldn't have a director in place until mid-August by that timeline. And so
Stephanie was hesitant to give a firm date like that when we talked. And I think that we'll probably get closer to that, to that yes or no on that December 1st, I think, meeting, that first Zoom we have coming up. we should be able to get it by then, because I know Barry sent all that stuff in. I got copies on all those emails. And, so they have the information right now. And, so hopefully, we'll be able to get that. But yes, I do remember you asking that, but I do also remember her response to that, so.
There is a high probability it's gonna cost the county more finances. So we're looking at, as Adam mentioned, having a joint county board, airport authority meetings. HDR there and Stephanie and her crew can answer questions with subject matter experts as opposed to, not having the answers when board members want to have some questions answered. To be continued, for sure.
Yeah, good. And thank you guys for all the time. All right, and that really was the only committee that was active. So I'm going to move on to old business, and that takes us to the table contracts from last month. And I don't have a copy of them in front of me, but Mary, I'm going to turn that over to you to.
Which order would you like to look at?
Oh, gosh, let's go to the airport director agreement. That's the first thing on the agenda.
So, again, this is what was brought last month and board tabled discussion on. But what you see here is basically the current agreement with the proposed red line markups. Minimal changes other than changing the rate for a 3% increase, with the one exception which led to it being tabled and previous report of the term of the agreement. So, let's see, rate change, and then the end date. I had requested a June 30th date, partly to ensure that I have time to, that the pieces are in place, that I know what the structure is going to be, so that I can make plans in that last 6-month period of next year, as it relates to timing of my moving on to whatever it is I'm going to do next. So that was a discussion. And then it removes the provision that it automatically renews once a month. It expires without a replacement agreement.
For how many months? Indefinitely.
I think that's well,
The current agreement is indefinite. So,
and the idea being that you wanted us to come up with a contract that could be offered to someone for the normal 3, 4, whatever it was years.
that is more on the Orchard Beach than on the airport director, but
See, this all predates me. All I've ever known is a year-to-year bumping along.
correct.
So I'm really not a good source of information on this.
The timing is for all 3 of these agreements is the same time frame, but the motivation on a longer term contract or a subsequent agreement is really more on the Orchard Beach side of things. But that is also dependent on the structure and how the airport's going to operate as to what that would look like. So.
And even the director, I mean, one of the models says the director being a county employee, right?
Correct. Yeah, and then, so we just add them at the contract. a direct employee.
I'll be the first to admit that my memory, is not good. But what my memory recalls is that, we had planned on having you as the director through the year with your transition. Am I remembering that?
Let me respond to that. So when I gave 2 years notice,
Right.
my intention was no later than December 31st of 2025. If it was earlier, that would be fine with me. So as opposed to thinking of it as this will be the end date, very flexible when the pieces come into place. It just concerns me if it were to go beyond, especially given years' notice to stay longer, what I'm trying to avoid.
Well, I'm certainly respectful of that, Barry. I think you've done a nice job and you have a wealth of knowledge. I personally feel very uneasy. Look, I think there's a level of trust between the airport authority and you. I think I think there's a good working relationship between the authority as an entity and you as an individual, your entities. But I think the purpose of these agreements is to establish, timelines. And I personally feel uneasy about having our assurance in writing be really dirty when we don't know. We can't even get Mead and Hunt to tell us at this moment in time, as we're negotiating this, we really don't know when Mead and Hunt's going to be done. We really have zero idea at all about what model we take. We have no idea what the cost implications are at this moment in time of the model. And I think it would be foolish of us to make assumptions about which route we're going to take before the Mead and Hunt report is completed. So I think we're kind of at a standstill, at least in my opinion, until March or April, whenever Mead and Hunt is done. And to be looking down that and only have a contract with Barry for, 30 to 60 more days, just makes me uneasy. Now, what I fully respect from Barry's chair is, he's got to create a sense of urgency with this board to move. So I get that, and you fully got my attention on moving things along. But I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I want to work with Barry to come up with a realistic and achievable plan to have him complete his services by December 31st of 2025. And realistic and achievable, I really mean that, so that in October, we're not saying, well, we need you till March of 26th. We owe that to you. You've been great to give us as much lead time as you have.
What are you proposing for the contract then? I guess is my question.
Through the end of 25 is.
Yeah, if he said not later than 25, I mean, I don't know, Cindy, how we are, I laid out a little timeline here. And
But the way this is written though is to June, but we can keep extending that per month, and you're willing, no?
Well, this doesn't automatically,
Oh, that's what we're doing, this is to extend per month.
no, that's what currently, so for
Okay.
example, the current contract expired weeks ago, and it's now on a month-to-month basis. So, I'm kind of without a contract right now. My anticipation is that May, June of next year, we will have more information, or you will have more information. And then we'll know what we need to put in place to cover that last 6 months. Because you may be saying, well, we want you for 3 months, and then we want you part-time to help train somebody. The terms of what I see in an agreement that covers that last period are going to be different than this. I don't see why having this go through longer helps anything, because I don't see that this is the right agreement as we get to that point in time. And again, I believe, especially on the Orchard Beach side, is I need a minimum of 6 months if the decision is that I need to sell that business in order to accomplish that effectively. So if these decisions don't happen by the end of June next year, I feel that I'm already in a position where I'm being forced to reevaluate that end date, just because of the lead times I see that I need to effectively transition the business aspects. Now, that depends on what direction the board ultimately goes, because Orchard Beach essentially could no longer exist based on board decisions, so therefore that may become a moot point. But at this point in time, I have to assume that is something that may be necessary. So I understand, but again, I'm not sure that it's any different from any other contract you have. They expire, and then you have to figure out what the next agreement is going to be and what the terms are. This is just saying that we're anticipating that everything needs to change for that last period.
So we could, that's where we're going. So we're really talking about dovetailing those contracts, the end of yours with the beginning of whatever the next era is. So that's 6 months. And we have like Adam says, we have an excellent, good faith relationship with you and the airport and with us. And so I don't anticipate a problem with that. I also understand what Adam's saying is that, all of a sudden we get to June 30th and who's turning the lights on in the morning. So, and this is a really complicated position, especially with the alternative EAS and everything. It's this is not something somebody can just walk into off the street in one day and just take over. Anyone else?
Like Adam's memory, it's a little foggy, but why was the month-to-month renewal removed from this contract?
Was that my request? And again, it's
If you wanted to put a
to
limit
present
on it.
that it's provide a little bit of incentive for the board not to drag the feet.
Mhm.
We're 11 months into 24 months, and we're really still at the beginning. So I feel the board has been dragging its feet.
Well, I wouldn't say that that's been the consensus that we should be very happy. I think that my own personal thing has been get on this. I said that a couple times. I like the timeframes, hit the timeframes. We are responsible to hit those timeframes. I know we're going to be waiting on Mead and Hunt, but you know what? We're paying them, so we tighten the screws a little bit. You will do what we're asking. And then we, as a board, stick to our timeframes appropriately. The thing that we're going to get into is, can we afford contracting with Barry and bringing somebody aboard? We're going to have to look at all that stuff. So 6 months worth of time versus 3 months worth of time, I don't know. I mean, those are all things that we're going to have to figure out, but I think we need to keep that in the forefront of our mind as well. as we're trying to make a decision here. Because again, you know, the county, we chopped down the money tree. So, you know, we have to kind of be looking at the big picture as well. We can also do an addendum on a contract if, you know, like you said, everybody said, we've had enough of a relationship. You do a good job, Barry, but, you know, I do think this board needs to be proactive. Unfortunately, it's unless.
My thought process is, we had the renewal aspect still in there, not to exceed December 31, 25. So that's the top aspect. My other comment would be, if someone was found that wanted to do what Barry is doing, my sense of the authority is they'd say, yeah, let's roll with it. If the board was comfortable with that individual, whoever that may be, I don't know. And then that allows sale for Barry of his assets, and if he was so inclined to, everybody would be on the same page. I don't know if there's a right, wrong aspect of where we want to go with it. No matter what we do, I would assume.
Yeah, you know, I think Karen and Jeff bring up a good point. I want to get the benefit of Barry's knowledge as long as we can in a transition with a new director, right? I think we're in a position where we have the luxury of having Barry alongside the new person for a period of time. I don't know if it's 30 days, 60 days, 45, whatever it is. But, you know, then Karen brings up the point, well, how are you going to pay for both salaries? Do we physically have the money to do it? And I don't know. And what I do know is that when we enter into a contract with Barry, we create financial obligations. And I don't know if we're writing checks we can or can't cash up front. I don't know who's put paper to pencil to figure that out. If we have duplicate directors for a period of time, right? I'm sure we can afford Barry's salary this month and next month and so on. But when there's the overlap, and I guess my question is, I think going back to like August or September, I think maybe the executive committee was gonna meet to talk about Barry's contract and work through these. I don't know if it did or didn't. I don't know if these sort of financial issues were thought through. I don't know if they'd be willing to meet if they haven't. It just seems to me adopt this as it is right now for 15 minutes of discussion. I'm just uneasy because I haven't fully thought it all through of what the implications are to both sides.
So Jeff brings up a point that we put an addendum to this, that it could be renewable on a month-to-month basis,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed. Yeah,
Correct, yeah. I
Agreed
like
by
that.
both parties.
Yeah.
and that seems like a good compromise to do it. So it's really
Automatic, the current language is that automatically renews.
right.
What your is language. So parties agree. My concern is if it automatically renews and the board doesn't follow through on their timeline, I'm stuck, and my only option is a 30 days notice period, which makes me the bad guy. And it's really just the only tool I have to force, decisions to get made in a reasonable time frame.
No, it's gonna have to be mutually agreed on either way,
So,
we can't make you do something you're not gonna do or don't wanna do.
You
do have a contract, and again, if it's renewed monthly, and we gotta drop that date, hey, you know what? You guys, everybody had a final date in mind. It also gives us the option that if we are ready to make a change prior to that, that ability is there for us as well.
Hold on, just, Lisa has something.
I was just gonna add some kind of food for thought. Would it may be a good idea to include a statement or some kind of verbiage of the transition within his contract? So then it's clear if either party wanted to get out of the contract because we hired or we found how we're going to continue to run the airport, it's in there and it would be clear as to what will happen. You know, that could go in, you could either do that with the month by month, once the June deadline hits, or take it through December and have that, you know, if the replacement is found within that period, this will happen.
You know, the problem with mutual agreement is don't come back. If you say, we're gonna do this unless, you know, if we can't mutually agree, we don't have anything, you don't, nobody has an obligation to take both of you. Just like sitting here, Dick, well, I want to do this and you want to do that, we can't mutually agree, so we just don't have anything, because we can't come to terms. So, in my opinion, mutual agreement doesn't work. The agreement has to come at the onset, and you say, somebody is going to do something until a certain date. That's the agreement. We want to, now you can have a notice provision where, you know, in my job, I have a 2-year contract in the board, and I have to do that unless I give 60 days notice. Okay, so that's the way to break that up, but it's not mutually agreed. My board can't fire me unless it's for a defined cause. And so things are very specific. So, you know, in this case, to say we're going to extend if we mutually agree, well, what if we don't mutually agree? Then we're not going to month by month. You don't, neither party has an obligation upon mutual agreement.
If we had been pushing this process the proper way, you would have addended or added on the expectations of the training and everything else. The time frame, we are way past before you do that.
Well, when I look at the calendar, what I think is reasonable for various considerations is what if we change June 30th to September 3rd? Because as we map this out, that's a hybrid compromise. You know, originally we thought it was going to be December 31. Now we've got June 30, September 30, puts it in the middle, and we know Barry would be here until September 30. The reason why September 30 makes sense is coming back to this timeline of meet and hunt. Let's say they deliver this model for our March meeting. It gives us April and May to determine which model are we going to pick. It gives us April and May to figure out how are we going to fund that model. Is the county going to find money or aren't they? Now by May 19th, our board meeting, that meeting we pick a model. We have the county's funding assurance by May 19th. I think that we should plan for 3 months, and maybe we can find our new candidate in 2. But you're going to publish notice. You're going to go through a round of negotiations. Those negotiations are going to take time. And assuming 3 months to find your new director, he's in here by 8/18, or we hire him on 8/18 at our August 15th board meeting. That gives a 30-day transition. In Barry, I would propose we move your June 30 date to September 30, and then we can go month by month to regroup if we've missed time. But at least we've got a timeline. At least we know we've got a directive that's here through a reasonable timeline. If somebody thinks my timeline's, fire away, then we can marry up this contract with wherever my timeline is. But I think it'd be nice to sync those two up.
I think it's a good compromise. We have added the timeline, but again, we have, that's an interview crew, that's gonna mean processing crew. We're gonna have to really be on our game about, that whole process. But I think it's a good compromise, if it's good with Barry.
We're talking right now in the context of this one agreement. There's Orchard Beach agreements that are yet to they potentially discussion. And that is where I have more concern, because if Orchard Beach is a viable entity going forward, based on the of the process, to sell that entity, an agreement to the airport that only lasts a month, or you start marketing it. So starting to market a business that the majority of its revenues only have a 3-month outlook isn't something I can do. Realistically, until a new agreement is in place, which I'm hoping would be July 1st, that would have a long period of time. So that is more specific about which model is chosen. It's not as specific about who the airport director is. In that model, that's my job to find someone who can speak for Beach Aviation going forward to fulfill the obligations of a longer term contract. So again, I'm trying to work timelines back and say I need in place roughly around mid-year agreements, especially for Beach, that are like the ones that I took over with, that were at that time 5-year agreements. 5 years is the magic number, but it needs to be longer than a year. Otherwise, the value of my business, there's just no long-term revenue returns to justify evaluation. So while I'm okay with an October or September 30th date on this agreement, I have an issue if what's being discussed is going to then carry over for the other two agreements. That to me is where more of the issue comes into play. On this one, given the timeline Adam just put out, you're basically guaranteeing at this point that if that timeline for the hold, that you're going to pay 2 directors for 6 weeks salary, which you may not want to do. I mean, so I will go back to Karen's point of adding language that says this agreement as it is can be extended on a month-to-month basis with both parties' agreements. That gives us the flexibility once we know more to, okay, we don't have to do a lot. We can just both agree, about 30 more days. But so there.
I personally think this is the wrong move to go to Gary's contract. I would think there's a lot here. I don't know. I'm not a good why. I like to sleep on. I don't have any of the paper. I think I don't think it's appropriate, for this board, these contracts, put them on the table in 30 minutes of consideration.
Okay, so the executive committee, what's your availability tomorrow?
I've got a county board meeting at 9 a.m.
Okay.
I will last, at least for a few hours.
Okay, what about Wednesday? I have a 3 o'clock commitment on Wednesday, but that's,
I'm available tomorrow afternoon.
I'm not, I mean, I'm available outside hours tomorrow, but not during those hours.
what do you?
After 6 o'clock, I'm available.
It's available tomorrow. at 6 as well.
Let's look at Wednesday then.
It'd be anytime after 10:30 Wednesday morning or prior to 9:30. Or afternoon.
Okay, now Wednesday afternoon, I'm tied up for about an hour, but I'm done with that about 4 o'clock.
About 11 on one.
I can do 11 on Wednesday.
11 a.m. Barry? Okay, 11 o'clock.
Very out of respect for your schedule and timing.
You can have 11:15, will you?
7:15 time with me.
That's just bring you out for another month. So especially the purpose of having. Okay. Maybe we can.
Well, no, on Wednesday, if we come to conclusion on a contract, that we can recommend to the court.
Mhm.
So do we want to like pick a day?
Yeah, we're going ahead, yeah.
Or cancel, I guess.
Next Monday.
21st to the 23rd, I'm not available. Okay. Tuesday, 26, Tuesday.
Morning plane on Tuesday, Barry.
Pardon?
Yeah. Special meeting just for this kind
A forum to vote.
of.
10:30 till. Would it be the noon on Tuesday? My first available is 11:45. Or 7:30. So they have to come by 8.
Even on the 26th.
Yeah, that's fine. Good. And yet that gives us a quorum then. Okay.
When you took over, Barry, was Orchard Beach available right away? Did it go for sale? Was it on the market, so to speak, for a while, or?
How found it? Of course, right?
I don't know how long ago it was looking at this down, like, stuff one day and.
How much of the transition was there?
That's what I'm curious, because if you, say, June, put it up for sale, there are a lot of people looking to run an airport, or, you know, that deal.
Pretty neat market, isn't it, Barry?
Well, management group obviously depends on what we can help stuff with
Well, there again, my question, that whole program, if you found that unicorn, if you will.
like Barry.
Yeah, and there isn't even a need to pursue with me.
That's what I was gonna say.
So what?
On the papers.
I guess,
That's right.
sitting in Barry's shoes, I'd be looking at that right now, because it's gonna be more valuable to him to sell that, and unless the board says, no, we are not gonna do this.
When given a 5-year contract.
Well, the only thing I can say is whoever comes in, the board has to be comfortable. And whoever comes in needs to be comfortable with the board. I don't think getting that contract is gonna be a difficult thing, but it's just a matter of having whoever that is.
Well, which contract are we talking about?
All of them.
Well, I mean.
I don't see where,
Orchard Beach Aviation is a legal entity.
yeah,
You are contracting with it. You are not contracting with whoever is operating it. So you don't get say necessarily in that case, even though you may like, I understand that.
What, I don't think what the board will do is grant a 5-year contract and not knowing to whom it will be.
who, yeah.
Right. So I think the board, if you walk in whatever month, January, February, March, with somebody and said, I've come to terms, I would like John Doe or Jane Doe. Will this board approve a contract for Orchard Beach Aviation and Jane Doe or John Doe 5 years? If the board likes them, they probably do it. But I don't think they will bless a contract to a legal entity or
Not knowing who it is.
knowing those terms will be assigned and not knowing who will carry out the terms. That won't happen.
But I don't think it will carry out with Orchard Beach Aviation.
Yeah, but they want to know the principles of it. Yeah, who's running?
That was 8 years ago.
But I listen to the board.
And I understand, but I also think that makes it very challenging to do, in which case maybe I assume that that's not even on the table anymore.
It does make it challenging to do. I agree. Because you're selling a business based on cash flow, you don't know the longevity of your cash flow.
And as someone who's looking to buy that business, there's some uncertainty that why would they even consider having that conversation?
All those things are completely true. 100%. Maybe what we need is a board meeting of the board to discuss and deliberate this. Because if you don't have a good idea of what's on the minds of the board members and what their appetite is, you really don't know what you're taking to market. Right? I mean,
Is what I believe Needham Hunt is going to help board work with.
I disagree. And I'll tell you why I disagree, Gary. Needham Hunt is going to come up with 3 models. This board may say we like the operator model that we have in place. But I think this board wants to meet the new Barry, understand that the new principal of Orchard Beach can actually perform and execute. They want to know the management. And Needham Hunt isn't going to deliver the management. They're going to deliver the structural concept. So if anybody disagrees with that,
No, I understand what you're saying. I understand what Barry's saying, but I also understand what you're saying, because it's just like when we were looking for somebody like Needham Hunt, we took interviews and everything. We're not going to just say, we're going to do a 5-year agreement and we hope for the best now, because we have no idea who we're getting.
Yeah, go sell Orchard Beach and say, hey, here it is. You know, again, I think we're getting overcomplicated with it. I don't see the sense of the authority is to, if you can find that plug and play, bring it. If we can't, I see us getting forced into a situation like they do at Mesquite with a firm. Then we really don't have a whole lot to do other than possibly who is the managerial. If I was sitting in your shoes and I wanted to sell that asset, I would be seeking someone to replace myself at the moment. Say, by the way, you know, this is it's no different than what you did with Bill. I don't see any sense of anybody, if everybody's comfortable with that position, Turn the page. You know, you get caught up on trying to overthink things, and
Well, I agree, we don't want to overthink it, but this is where we have not set plan. for Those, that's what we're scrambling now to try to figure it out. But if we would have set that plan, goal, or direction, we probably wouldn't have need. They're giving us that information, we can make the decision. We didn't make a decision, and we're going. And this is what bringing us up the whole. We're kind of reactive instead of planful, and I get a little concerned about that. We got caught in that with 10-4. You know, we gotta react quick. That's why everything got pushed back. That's why we weren't dealing with, leaders, because we're trying to just figure this piece out. And then we're reactive, we don't have a direction. I'm not trying to overthink it, but it's difficult because we don't really know.
So in the way I see it, coming up with a sustainable plan that, okay, so the new person comes in, they have a health problem, something happened, and all of a sudden, boom, there we are again. If we had something that's sustainable, institutionalized, and I think that's my goal in all of this, is if something did go wrong, we can deal with it.
all small organizations. The key players out of the equation.
Yeah.
It's always a
Oh, yeah. And that's a lot of problems in organizations. So I think that leaves it then until Wednesday at 11:15. Let's see, you, me, and you, Will, and Barry will be just meet right here. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Cool. And then we'll have a special meeting on the 26th at noon to go ahead and approve contracts. And if anything else has come up by that time, then it has. So I guess that just tables, that also is going to table the Orchard Beach contract talk until Wednesday as well. I see no reason to really beat that horse right now. All right, any new business?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know, Mike, if this is a committee thing or where, but Greg Kennan approached me and the reason why I was late coming in is I was talking to Greg on the outside of the door about rental. And I remember in the spring when we were talking about airlines, one of the things we had a rental car operation that could meet increasing demand and could scale and could rent your car on the mobile. So, before you know it, the spring season will be here. And how do we, rental car discussion, and Greg and whoever's in it, come up with goals so we can go out for request proposal opportunity and then
Well, I see there's a thing on the director's report about that, but it doesn't look like there's anything really to report.
Well, I mean,
When we get to it.
that's more mostly reactive inquiry that came in. But what Adam proactive was really trying to recruit a rental car firm for our community. It's something we've been trying to do for years, and that happened. But we get sure what that brings. So this is the time to look at that. I'm scheduled to together with Andrew, I think his last name right now, our economic development director for the county. We talked about this. He and I met at the open house and had a brief conversation. My vacation. Things we've gotten together yet. But that is something he has noted as he thinks he can contribute to, at least across the role.
But you haven't heard anything back
No,
from Enterprise.
I've
An initial.
I've sent them a couple, updates with further information and no.
They're a nightmare. They're a nightmare to work with.
Well, and, you know, so in the part that Greg said, if you want to talk about scaling up, I'll come in, I'll make an investment. Cody Watson has said, I mean, we can do it. Adam, give me a meeting with Barry. I mean, they're our operators, local companies that will make an investment if they know they have a 2 or 3 year contract to earn income on their investment. I think it's very realistic that we could have a rental car company in place by April. We have a rental car company in place, a scaled up operation to meet a summer demand. So I don't know if we need to have a committee or how we can put a timeline on it so that it's, we have a ribbon cutting for it in April, but we need rental car game and it'll be done by that.
So they both put proposals to us and
Asking for a proposal, rather.
Yeah, gotta explain what we're looking for, because in my conversation, both of them are not looking at find what we need.
We take an hour, whoever we are, sit down and say, here's what we want to have. We can make what we want and get it out to the marketplace to, if we can do it. And
it's kind of simple, card and reservation system.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I think our first decision is when are we going to meet to talk about it?
Was Cody and, who's the other guy?
The current operator.
We need the answers for that discussion.
Well, I'm not sure. Like a board discussion, a committee, what,
Yeah.
which committee, is it one of these committees?
Then we have something about, a different. Well, maybe.
Executive capital budget bylaws and,
This could fall under training position.
yeah, it doesn't have enough to do. So, anybody want to be on a rental car committee?
Sure.
I got two, I heard 2 sure's. Here's 1, here's 2. Okay, 1, 2, well, okay, and then that'll take me off of it, and that's fine too.
Can we meet an hour before meeting? Yeah.
Tuesday, Collins and Dan, though,
Yeah, 26.
26, tonight at 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't be in there now because that would make a quorum.
No.
Those on my list.
Say on that again.
Uh,
26.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
So in new business. So,
Mhm.
station. You know, like we did on this board. And I don't know where it is. I know we all got copies, but I don't know if this board. I think instead of grabbing at different things, that we come together and kind of what, I mean, in my head, I've got a, but it might not be the same as everybody else. So I think it would be nice to get that strategic plan and then update it.
You know, Karen, I think that's where, here's why. Got a real sharp guy coming into the new role. He should be. What's your plan? Where are you going? And do you guys have the money to do it?
Mhm.
Anybody who's worth salt really wants to understand how we can execute and what our plan is.
It brings us, you know, that we can support whoever's coming in, knowing what their vision is gonna be.
So, and I heard it, to make sure that everyone has.
It's great. I know I have it somewhere, but it's
And I
probably buried.
believe I've given it to every new board member. But again, where is it? How is it sent out to everybody? Everyone has it. But I think what I'm hearing also is, again, layering this now on top of the hunting line, that has some things happening by March. Probably sounds like the board wants to spend January, February reviewing what's there and updating it, in sort of not necessarily elaborate process, at least everyone around the table familiar with what's there and in agreement that it accurately reflects, or where it doesn't, it changed, reflects the current board. That's really what our early 2025 meeting.
It is. Yes. And I don't know if the risk of baby. I really don't, you know, you get these plans and they're 100 pages thick, and I don't know who reads them cover to cover. And you know, some of it might be relevant and some of them might not be. We take some time and look back at that, or you can look at your committee list and say, what are 3 things in 2020 we want to see happen under each one of those? Whatever the most efficient way is to look down the road where you're going. You want to look back a little while first in this plan, okay, or say 3 things about the building, the operations.
It ends up being, you know, I guess it ends up being what people do. I think roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with it. You know, we, you know. I'm sorry. Be me.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so, but
That's a
the priority under the mission, vision, and values. And so, you know, I'm all about the roadmap. I think it keeps us in direct. It does help in the grant, so that we always come back and kind of go, well, it's the roadmap. Remember, building. You know, I might have a big vision, but you know, the dollars. It's everybody in the right direction. But I'm not 20 pages.
It falls right into that sustainability, let's talk about as well.
Yeah.
And people coming and going from the board, that keeps that continuity. That's gonna be.
That meeting, I was impressed, great meeting, and I thought great things came out of it. But over time, I've lost myself. So it's good to bring it back up. It was well, I thought it was well put together, and we can see how it fits going forward.
I see that predates being here right now. That means
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did I get here first?
All right, so we have a rental car committee going, and we're going to look at the plan first of the year. Good deal. Barry, that finally gets us to you.
No incidents or accidents for the month. Some progress on billboard leases. So Coho Bend has signed and paid. Is that in the mail? Lamar, interestingly, paid, but they haven't actually signed the new agreement. They
Didn't
So-
say they didn't want it.
They wanted to talk about it, but that's been was followed up with.
You're still pushing.
But we just kind of talked about the enterprise car rental, so I don't have any updates there to share that I already. Okay, hangers, which got briefly touched on earlier. We now, for the first time, probably 12 years, actually have a waiting list for wanting. Currently are full, meaning there is something in every. With the following three caveats. Them being a sheriff. Accommodated them starting earlier this year, a temporary thing, but I've heard nothing about how temporary that is. We're currently receiving any rent from them, so we are. It's something that we should consider. We're here. County, negotiation. Number two is one of our hangars is currently used by Sharon for stuff. As part of our agreement in him donating his hangar to us early, his planned leave and 6 years early, we agreed that we would provide at no charge a hangar that he could basically accomplish what he was using the old hangar for. There are terms in that say we can kick him out. We actually have a need for it for an airplane. But that is non-aviation right. And then the third is Cape Air's old hangar. My thought on that is Cape Contour is still working through their process of hiring their maintenance here. So right now, what they have is basically temporary maintenance coming in. I can't really have a conversation with a temporary person about a long-term, what their long-term needs are for. Now, realistically, that hangar is too big for what they need, and it's too small for them. It's too small because the aircraft supply is fit in it, and it's too big because you can't put the airplane in there. You just need space for your equipment. Keep it. That's a work area. So that is way more than they need that, but also, again, so. But my thought process has been is, given the importance of our airline service, I should have that conversation with them to make that Contour first before we come up with alternative use. I want to make sure that their needs are met. They have what they need to provide adequate maintenance that's reliable. That process longer than would have, although they have hired somebody, actually the maintenance person that Air was using has been in training for a couple weeks. I don't know when he's actually going to be back here, when he gets out of training. And I know they're talking about, hiring other part-time researchers. So now, if Contour doesn't want that, or only wants part of it, that hangar could become a community hangar, which the airport means that the airport basically is responsible for having multiple planes in there, and you're not leasing a whole hangar, but you're leasing some space. A little more inconvenient because they can work with airport personnel to get the plane in and out, because it could be behind two other ones and things like that. But it generally would cost less than renting your own hangar. We could probably fit 4 aircraft in there under that. There have also been conversations in the past about leasing that to a maintenance provider to actually set up a maintenance shop here. At the board level and my personal level, I've had conversations with Cadillac Aircraft Service about doing things like that in the past. That kind of all got sidelined when Air decided they wanted this for length of their contract, but we can essentially start those on CCN. So that is the hangar situation
How many do you have in a waiting list?
right now. And a third that has contacted me, whose plane wouldn't fit in a T hangar and larger hangar. I'll call it the Cape Air hangar.
Leasing the whole thing.
I don't think he knows, because I haven't actually interacted with him yet. We've kind of gone back and forth with kind of what the time cost, because what we would be looking for rent, I'm sure, is well more than he'd be willing to pay, but he could essentially use it as a community hangar type situation. Yes, but it is on the larger.
I thought Aaron, it's like a bunch of personal things.
Yes, that's what
Yeah,
he.
I think he's gonna get rid of it.
Yeah.
No,
No,
not with it.
it's a lot of it.
I think it's out in there, so.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff, and I think we're heading in here, it's library.
So,
What would we charge the hangar? Both cents.
we're at $175 a month. So we are foregoing for that particular one, we're foregoing right now $100 a month in revenue. That wasn't an issue until about 30 days ago, when usually we get the requests in the spring. It's rare that we get people who want to come here in the winter. But, okay. So my recommendation would be that we try to end our agreement with Housing the Sheriff folks, that we can use that for revenue generation to accommodate one of the waiting list people. We work with Contour once the person gets here full time, and then put together a plan how we want to use that hangar. That at this point, I don't want, that gave us really good deal with that app. I really want that the last thing that we would out of. But at some point, we need to and should do that. But I'm not at that point yet. So that would be my recommendation, but I don't know what the Sheriff's Department's long-term planning has been since how it's in their vote temporarily. I don't know. You know?
I don't know.
Either of you know.
Using it in the winter, yeah.
Well,
Everybody else.
I think it would depend on what kind of winter you have, and think you can still use that when there's time. So, I'll have a conversation with Sarah.
We collect rent on this, so if they continue to use it. That's the thing, either, you know, we need that space, we have a wait list, or you need to pay the rent for it.
We should maybe, bill them after, March or April. I think we're gonna be on their door. Tens of thousands, and we're bark about it. But along those lines, well, operating is.
You're talking broader than just.
Yeah. Well, the first comment was with narrow respect to my second comment. Have we looked at what rent is per lately? I mean,
It is, for the market, that's fairly reasonable, because these are not insulated, not heated, these are, I mean, this gets you out of the rain, that's it.
Not the big.
Yeah. That's another committee.
Well, mentioning people, the answer question to get. There's a group within the state of Michigan right now that's actually survey of airports up with that question, what is full rental rate per hangar?
all Westford and Ludington for your hangar rate and what.
But for the here and now, the question is the boat and Ted. So, Barry, we're going to contact the sheriff's department then, and
Lisa's gonna do that. I'll get to the,
okay,
this is just, you don't have to make this.
Sure.
Today. And use the board's attention. And we'll probably. Good position to be in where we have demand, where we've had and for a long time. Okay, now to keep bringing this up. Frustrated, and Mike can attest, I was a little bit short-tempered with my staff. Rolled out to me while I was on vacation. So our snow plow, our main snow plow, our Oshkosh plow with 2006 plow. Workhorse has been great. Towards the end of last winter, there were issues developing. It got taken into West Coast Farm Service. They do all of our heavy maintenance right now, and handle in-house. And for whatever reason, that delayed and delayed and delayed, and got up there, and they took the whole front plow apart and basically discovered that for 8 years of use, it got a lot of things wrong with it. Using Oshkosh OEM parts is about $43,000 in repair. West Coast Farm Service will basically custom craft and weld things together, and they can do it for probably just shy of 20,000. Their quote is like 18 something, but I'm just going to go find a couple more things. That's what I got when I was on vacation is $20,000 for things that had blindsided me. I don't. So I have the authority to commit the airport to that extent without board input. I pushed back and said, well, what is the minimal amount of work to do? I understand when someone fixes things, takes them apart, want it to be perfect. $1,000, what other options do we have? So there's roughly a half of that price to do the absolute most critical things and get it back together and be used this winter. But realizing that the rest of it probably will need to get done in the future. So it probably delays and increases the total cost, but it does impact our current budget heavily. And then if we did nothing, we just put it back together and basically we're not going to fix the front plow. We still use that as our primary sanding vehicle. It's the only vehicle that can dispense one-way de-icing fluid. And it does have an underbelly blade, so as long as you're dealing with through snow, you can still use it as a plow for that. You just can't use it in major snow events. So if we basically did nothing, it's probably still going to cost us $5,000, and that is probably just an increase in paper. Because we're going to, there'll be more times where we're going to need to have two obstacles on for a snow event, just because we're using older equipment that's slower and well doing that. So doing nothing still has a cost. I have no idea what it is. I'm throwing out a number. So that range of options.
What's the deferred maintenance we have in our line item? Deferred maintenance budget, what can we afford?
Well, so our maintenance budget is $40,000. So
Repair?
yeah.
Oh,
But we're right at the beginning of that cycle.
we have, well, we have, for most of the last 5 years, always going over on that budget item. With the ARPA money and some of the things we've done, we believe we've caught up for a lot of things. Things like this, they're way ahead. So technically, this falls within our budget. We go that $20,000, half of our year's maintenance budget. I'm just reluctant to do that without the board's input for basically the first month of the year of already committing half of the year's budget at one project.
I have a problem with like, all right, this is an 18-year-old vehicle that we need to put on our radar in our planning. I would say we're not going to hand down the road anymore. We're addressing it. So I do not feel that we postpone the work. I think we either have to do this 20 or this 10. You know, we need to get it by and then make a plan how we're ever going to replace it.
So it is on our long-term FAA capital project budget, but that's a 10-year window. So that plan is 10 years out, and this vehicle is behind a lot of other very big projects, so it's probably 5 years.
how do we triage this? I mean, looking at this in and of itself, I have zero idea what's out there in that building and what we're gonna talk, what's gonna rear its ugly head next month. So it's tough for me to say, well, what option should we take here? Because I have no clue. You know,
So my thought, my recommendation ultimately, as I explain this to you, is it's partly to answer the question. I have no idea what the break is. Never do, and so that is unpredictable. When we budget, we kind of look at averages over a number of years and try to.
You have to calculate the life of the equipment, you know, like it's going into That probability there.
If they are increasing,
Why don't you talk to the mechanic and come back next month, give us a report on what's going on out there?
Hopefully you don't have to fight it.
Seriously.
Well, here's what we have, here's the age, based on the mechanics. You know, safe harbor statement, right, could be wrong, but here's what I might expect, or here's this time of year, what we typically find. I mean, I think no one has a magic crystal ball, but an educated person with a full comprehensive list.
Don't have to get it.
Well, let's think.
They can try to do a better job predicting, giving us a bigger output. 47. But don't get rid of it.
But here's another crystal ball question. How long does it take? If we said, fix this thing now, here's $20,000, make it go. How long is that?
Yeah.
How long is that going to take?
I don't know, but less than 30 days.
But we're in.
Yeah, because we're out east, that's what I'm thinking.
And we have 2 snowplows. This one is 18 years old, the other one is 25 years old. That's why we don't use it very often. So to me, it boils down to the 2 options you kind of honed in on, those middle 2. And it ultimately is a cash flow decision. We minimize cash flow or cash flow hits this fiscal year, but will ultimately probably pay, let's say, 20% more for the total. Or we just do it all up front and take that hit and run the risk that when we get 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year that we exhausted, budgeted, and then we have to address that shortfall at that time.
This is probably what, $125,000, $150,000 piece of equipment.
300.
$300,000.
So you're talking about just the front end is over 200,000 or the entire?
The vehicle to replace it, what currently, but kind of the long-term planning.
We talked about before, not too long ago.
What
What happened with that?
That goes through the law for the pickup. For the
need pickup truck we bought.
Okay.
Which was a big part of our, since up until the last year, so.
Yeah.
On that old pickup truck.
You said that this truck was in the long range plan?
Yes.
What year?
I don't know if it's roughly 5 years. But again,
Federal, that's federal money, not us money. Oh, well, we have to,
but that is where having more passengers under the new federal funding allows us more certainty that we can actually accomplish.
We got $1 million this year, out of the FAA, our passenger count. We can use that money to buy a new truck.
Yes and no, because we've got a taxiway reconstruction that's $1 million project that's mine for the way they categorize projects. That's more important.
To me, those are the sorts of questions. More important. I know the snow's gotta get put, right? You can't. You're buying a new truck in 2-3 years, you wanna put $20,000 in it or $10,000 like long. You're 1 month into your budget, money's tight. I mean, to me, I'm looking at it, asking questions that don't show up on this sheet.
How much is it to buy a whole new front, just that particular part instead of having to repair it? You know what I mean? You're just looking for the plow, right? So just the plow, not the whole truck itself, right?
Not the
Just-
whole truck, but it's more than what attached to the truck. It's components on the truck that are either worn or have cracked.
It's an 18-year-old truck.
Right, I'm just trying to figure out cost-wise, what's gonna be more feasible.
So partly to answer your question, at this point, I'm very confident saying that our getting a new truck will be outside the window of us needing to complete the maintenance, complete the repairs that are needed. So the 10,000 won't be enough to get us through until we get.
Are you looking for?
Well, if you're
Yeah, we
comfortable,
need to, yeah.
well, potentially, or if you're comfortable, I mean, technically, we have a line item of $40,000 that fits within it. If the budget is repair, I do at least need some feedback from the board that says, yes, that's okay. You want to do it in a motion, that's fine.
I preference if we don't need.
I think we need to do this.
I think we need.
Do the 20 to get it through, hopefully it'll last through until,
If West Coast parts are as good or better than the OEM, yeah, I would stick with the 20, is that way you're good for years.
And Barry, are you confident that you don't have more than $20,000 worth of breakdown for the next 12 months? Not the way we're gonna get the money.
I am not.
That's the reason why I think you can hold it.
you do what you gotta do to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
Get it done and we'll deal with it if that line item comes up, or if we need to adjust the budget inside line item.
But we have to have that runway clear for those lanes to land. And that,
Yeah, and I don't
Yep.
see doing 10,000 to have to put another 10,000 in next year or more.
You talk about $200,000 vehicle, so it's like, you're comparing the input. For 5 years.
okay, so we have a motion.
It's in the budget, get it done.
Do they have an itemized, deal with their doing,
Yes, don't. Damn it, yeah.
And you said it was about 18,000, just giving up on.
there's gotta be some hydraulic parts.
We have a second to that motion.
Actually, it wasn't.
We don't need a motion.
We don't, okay.
Already in the
I
budget.
think what I'd also like to request, if you could have the maintenance guys like do an inventory of equipment that might typically be used between now and the end of time. And it's a little bit of this, but like, what is it, if they rated the quality of it? So at least if we sit here and all look in our crystal balls, we might be less surprised for the next one.
Well, if they're doing an inventory, I would.
That's great. So like by this meeting next month, I think we should have that. So I don't know if I have to be responsible, guys, I know that I'm to have it.
You're specifically requesting,
Inventory, inventory.
but historically, a lot of our costs come from repairs, building, and other means.
Yeah, but
It
I
can
think,
be a taxi or a thing out in the runway. I mean, there's,
we gotta start somewhere, so let's start there. And if others wanna expand the scope, I'm saying great, let's do that, but I'd like it to be achievable, to have something completed, tangible in our hands next month. I'm afraid if we also include that and all the other stuff,
the reason I'm asking is I want to make sure that expectations are set that whatever it is probably only going to cover half of it.
Well, that's what we looked at in the plan.
yeah. So if you're seeing something on the list here, like, you know better than we do, I imagine you'll get a draft or two before next month. You're like, hey, this is like a major thing that somebody on the board might have thought with a piece of equipment. I mean, I can say right here, like, I don't expect the HVAC and all that kind of stuff. But it's a part.
I think that's something they would actually enjoy doing. Believe it or not.
Here's what I think I will provide in addition to what's asked for, and that's kind of a breakdown in past years.
That'd be cool.
What the expenses
Yep.
went in. You can see, we've been spending 40% of this line
Really
item
good idea.
for
Yep.
these types of things.
I like that. Also by next month? There you go. I gotta do it.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, continuing on then, nothing new on the reader system, LED lighting. Who's the last bill for that? To find out the electric that's completed, so. Really nice to have parking lot, ramp inside of all the hangars that we own, with nice brand new lighting and we should be the cost saving. EFA lease, I think I'm close to getting that wrapped up. EFA is still insisting that they have CAD drawings of the terminal. No such thing exists. Either Newhoff have them, and Peter Thompson was the architect, and he's been unresponsive, so I know
Been
that.
gone for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's, her mother is. Last time I talked to her. So I'm just not able to provide them, and I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars to do new drawings or a lease that brings us in roughly that amount of money. So we're talking about how to resolve that. Enplanement numbers. So our passenger count for October on the Contour's first month, they did 1,525. That is 9% increase over Cape Air's previous year. Quite frankly, I'm amazed that they could go from 0 passengers booked and end up with essentially our best October. Caveat is the year 11 year. There wasn't a hiccup. Passengers booked, still planes, everything went very smoothly. On the performance side, only canceled flights in the month of October, which is 124 flights, so a little shy of 2%. Delays a little bit higher percentage-wise, 14%. The vast majority of them are not consequential delays. Although I guess I'll wait till later in my report. Watching Contour and how they accommodate issues, delays. But overall, very good. That 2% cancellation rate, if you go back October, Cape Air never managed to do that well. The last time we were at that point was under our previous year. Airfares, overall, a little bit higher than they were last month, but service fares went up more than ours on average. Average went down a little bit, even about up. So we're in a good situation. I like it when we're less than Traverse City as opposed to more than Traverse City on average, but Traverse City as an airport is radically different than they were 10 years. Number of carriers, destinations, passengers, all of that lower than fares up there and rate demand. So, we're not where I want to be, but at the same time, Traverse City charges $13 a day to park, and we don't charge anything. So that also makes a difference in kind of balancing And as it relates to that fare from the northern Michigan to Chicago, we are clearly the better deal for that. Sometimes, you know, 3, 4, 5 times less expensive than that same fare out of the city. So we have advantages against them. It's not what it past once was because of how they move on. Our capital projects, so not much has happened. The only thing I can mention is at the Michigan Aeronautics Commission meeting last week, our grant was awarded for our 2024 project that has been bid out and are scheduled to happen next spring. Therefore, we see the paperwork for that probably, I'll say January, given holidays the next month and a half. But that's in the timeline for getting the work done.
Maybe bullet point. Budget completion was for, so, you know, somebody. Yeah. $1 million worth of work, we're gonna do an X, we're gonna do a Y, we're gonna do a Z, and we got hours of that money.
I don't think.
But really, this is for all of these things, you know, both of these pages.
No, I was for specifically those
First 3 only,
big
okay.
area
Gotcha.
that is all.
And the hangar doors, that's another,
That is a different project, you know, with a different.
gotcha.
I met with the architect that during last month. But on the remarking crack ceiling, it's a different state program. The crack ceiling got completed, the remarking didn't before time ran out this fall, so that terminal improvement. That's going to be a big project, and because the funding for it expires next year, and it needs to happen by Mead and Hunt, kind of the same time frame that they're doing other things for us. And that's going to be some interesting conversation for the board.
What is that? So we're gonna.
Don't know yet. That's be led by Mead. We'll have questions for us. There will be alternatives on and risks around funding. Down this process. There are potentially certain scenarios where if we don't ultimately get certain grants, we may be on the hook for design work.
I think really, the only thing I need is, we're not sure.
Correct.
How do we bring it? Do we ask Mead and Hunt to get started? Do they tell us how? I don't know the process, but what I'm hearing is you're under a time.
Correct.
This thing.
And waiting for their resources to happen.
Well, if they're, because what's really at the heart of a comment is if there are consultants. And you're sounding an alarm. I don't know if there needs to be a meeting with me to come to here or somebody. How do we mitigate our risk? Our consultant doesn't have the staff to do the work. I feel like they're putting us, asking us to.
No.
Well, then my.
They're aware of this timeline, they're fitting it into their schedule.
When I do. You know, what they need, and then I do time, but it's not a thing of when I can get, yeah, I mean, unless they really want. But, typically it's like what I need and you have to start on the. I imagine they're already gathering the information, they're doing these kind of the work first. I would hope.
They are doing certain things.
Right, they're not just doing it, now, they have started.
Yeah.
They have, every consulting proposal that I've received has a roadmap of.
But that is not the way these projects work. Because so much is dependent on funding timeline that the federal government provides, that often they don't provide those dates until way late. For example, right now, we into a fiscal year and no money is allocated for airports yet. And therefore, nothing can be done because there's no ability to pay for it. So what happens is these projects get compressed because the dollars are available. Unless we want to start writing $100,000 checks, it happen on our timeline. It happens when the dollars are there from the grant funding sources to make it happen.
I keep saying that we have a general guideline, and they come back in March, information we need.
Right, but this is for a different cost model.
Yeah.
So this isn't that, this is airport terminal improvement project.
Yeah, the funding ran out for that. What was that date you said?
I believe it is the 2026 school year. But there's a bunch of steps that have to happen. It was a 5-year program coming out of by heart. And per year of $5 billion allocated. For a variety of reasons, we didn't even have a patient for doing it until contour starts. So there have been pieces landed, but unfortunately, we have these multiple programs. Everyone else is waiting for that last year. There are going to be more grants in the middle than any other year because more time to get them together. How will we rank, et cetera? And that's where questions will come to the board of, do we even want to pursue this? Because how will we competitively rank? And if we fail peer funding, either through this or potentially through means, we may be on the hook with expenses that can't be reimbursed.
So I guess the question is, when do we have that? When does this board make that business?
When Meeting Hunt has the information, they started having these conversations with them. I don't even understand all the issues. They're putting this together. They're a similar situation at a different airport. They're going through the same thing. So we are piggybacking on the efforts they're doing, partly to reduce costs, do certain things that they're already doing. I can get more information in a future meeting. I'm just giving you an FYI that this coming is required some board thought and input. You know, expect it at some point in the future.
Do we have a line item in our? Whenever this comes, we have any available funding?
Yes, and yes. So it is part of our capital budget, got a forecast that goes out 5 years that show what our local match is. As we go out beyond the next year or two, we don't have funds to accomplish that match. That's part of this whole station of sustainability for the airport. But that's assuming that projects are funded and grant dollars available and we're paying 2.5%.
We need to raise those funds, and we'll go to the county board and ask for that, I think, and then we will do a board agree with the line item. And
But there are occasionally things like could come out of this project where if certain things don't happen, then we're on the hook for expenses that are beyond that risk needs to be under.
Well, and maybe this can come back. Okay, but it seems to me that you're using the word risk, I'll use the word investment. We budget investment dollars just to do our planning. We know that if we want to get some local skin in the game, not the 2.5% match. Right, grant writing, some hard work. We know we want to do a terminal upgrade at a point. We don't know if it's 26 or if it's 27, but we know there's going to be risk. So where are we budgeting for that? And just the basic pushing the paper. And then it seems like this approach of, well, whenever we're lucky enough to get a 2.5%, we'll go and check, and 2.5% fall out of that. Feels like there'd be a lot less stress, and it would be easier if we said, you know what, over the next few years, we want a terminal improvement, we want this, we want that, we want that, and it's $10 million altogether. 2.5% of 10 million is whatever it is, 250. And guys, be working on that.
the perfect world that would be. But that, in correct me if I'm wrong, and when I did this, what he's asking, he has better understanding. So FAA has X amount of dollars in. You can't know what dollars are there. They know where we're gonna rank and how. But we can't say, okay, we're gonna do, these 6 projects next 5 years, because there's gonna be windows opening up certain opportunities. Meeting Hunt reimbursed from that whole process of a, I mean, we are signing a contract with Meeting Hunt for $100,000 coming out of our general fund dollars. Meeting Hunt, basically a remuneration from those tax a grant as they fall into play. And that's when so that's how that all happens. Right? Okay.
Basically, until the grant is there, only minimal work happens, because funding is there. And the dollars we're generally talking about are so much bigger than our financial capacity, or even the county's capacity. Talking a $10 million, tax way. I mean, those are things that are beyond our local capabilities. That's kind of the nature of the game. Get into it's justified based on the minimal effort of work of basically writing up, here's what we want to do, and here's, does it rank well, it's funded, and we can start and end of it. But with the terminal, that just is because competitive bid, there's a lot more upfront work that the EPA is looking for to justify and rank that project versus other ones through a gray area. Will that ultimately be reimbursable if the project doesn't proceed or get awarded?
I just think it'd be powerful for budgeted for money. Do that research. Oh, terminal improvement. It is independent. So, that data, government. Analysis their. So, be active. We have a vision. Here's what we want to achieve. Here's and we're gonna put in the game, and on day one, when that announcement is done, our application is full in the mail, 90% of the work is proposed.
If we were a larger airport, we would be doing that. But we don't have, in my opinion, we certainly don't, and I don't believe the county does either, have the resources to make that happen. But maybe I'm too conservative on my.
It would be great if we could do that. If we don't have the finances, but some would say, you know, you get the finance, you end up getting finance, the reward. But if we put this in a plan, if we started correctly, these type of things, hiring a consultant and stuff like that would be something that we could look and plan for. You know,
If the plan is $100,000, yeah. 2 years, you're doing it. That's
Yeah,
not a heavy
plan.
lift. I mean, we're saying it's out of our budget, we don't even.
have a vision first. And plan.
I know. It's just that I know that our budget, we don't have dollars to do anything that's not already spent. And maybe that's my fault for locked into.
But it's like, unfortunately, the airport, you know, it's just a nickel and dime thing, you know, we're just bail wire, stuff together, you know, we just have to really have a real proactive, and we are moving up, so we have to start thinking bigger.
Okay. You kind of keep moving forward, so already touched on this under the passenger numbers, so I won't repeat the things I've already mentioned. November, projections, assuming we don't have a number of cancellations, we have November, I'm sure will be previous Cape Air numbers from last year, which again were our best for Frontier year. I'm a little surprised that the holiday Thanksgiving isn't as sold out as I would have anticipated. But the rest of the month has been fairly solid. Really interesting just watching bookings. There was a definite downturn in bookings last week of October and first week of November. I think many people just stopped doing things as they were waiting for the results of the election to. And now that we know the world didn't shut down and explode after the election, life has gone on and bookings are back up to where they were the week prior to that 2-week window. Really no looking at. In December, I'm still going to continue my prediction that Contour can beat Frontier December. So we did 1,525 passengers in October. Frontier in December of that year did 1,472. We need to do about what we did in October. That's doable. I can't legislation, whether it could throw a wrench into that during December. But I think obviously that could be the first of a string of, you know, all-time deaths per month. Station, Contour attracts a whole different set of passengers. They attract business travelers, which we've never really accommodated here. People were looking for a cheap fare or, you know, free parking, you know, we could attract them, but, you know, the business traveler, which is less price conscious, never really been on their radar with certain extent. That really changed dramatically. And the other thing that's surprising is the number of last minute bookings. Were booked more people on their flights within the last 7 days before a flight prior to that. Again, that is so different from previous carriers where they were booking 30 days or more in advance to get the fare, and that was what was driving them. So very different environment now. A little bit of an update on United Interline. That interline is now active, but not complete. So you can book Contour and United together on one ticket. You just can't do it on UA.com. United's IT staff was supposed to have that in place by the end of November. That the staff got pulled off on 2 different projects, so there's not yet a firm date on when that will happen. And then the other thing is that United publishes a set of interline fares that are specifically targeted at AAS carriers. So those fares right now explicitly say they are combinable with a fare, Peak, Southern, and Denver Air Connect, but not Contour. So United has to, so you can book these United fares, but they're more expensive right now. The more competitive fares just haven't been updated yet. All benefiting United, but they're just at a fully material. This is the one area that I have of concern with Contour, and that's hiring. So their staffing plan is 3 full-time people and 5 part-time people, 5 or 6 part-time people, with one of those full-time people being maintenance, who they have hired, 2 being full-time for the station operations, and the rest being mostly ramp agents, although part-time maintenance falls in there. So far, they've hired 2 of those 9 positions, and kind of quietly behind the scenes, one of their hires already unhappy and may be looking for elsewhere because it's taking so long. So they are operating with the people they bring in who don't know the community, who don't know the airport. They're doing a job, but they completely lack that customer service that we're known for at the small airports, because they're only here for 2 weeks, so they're not incentivized to invest in building on that, you know, good customer service. That they're doing their job. I've talked with them. They say this isn't unusual. It's unusual, but not unheard of. They've had other stations that have been 3 to 4 months to ramp up, but this community doesn't have the pool of workers. There's the type of worker they're looking for, which is young, able-bodied, physical things they need to do out there, and a part-time job that's a pay a lot. Just a mismatch between the available pool we have of employees in our community and what is needed. So hopefully that can get resolved, but it's learning that not coming to. The issues that I'm starting to hear about are more customer service centric issues. There just really isn't anybody to handle them right now.
I was working with Michigan Work.
I believe so.
Are they net more employees than?
But we still don't have a station manager. I think that's the biggest roadblock we have right now. And
I personally want them to really find the right person. And the right people. Because, again, we can't be the same.
I leave it to their expertise as to what they're looking for. My concern, their drawback.
Along that line, I posted the last.
So they don't know you're there.
Well, I was there was a normal start open.
Their regional director has ordered them closed because occasionally will have on their computers very sensitive information and therefore
Customer service over.
I want to have that conversation, but until there's a full-time person here that I have that conversation with.
Close the conversation. Whether it's HR in there, I mean, business doesn't stop for counselors, but there's not.
Right. Again, one of those things where the institute will take this long, so I was like, I'll wait 30 days until this is filled, like having these conversations. So that's one of many things I've witnessed. I want to have a conversation about. The longer it takes, then it's like, well, maybe I take the wrong decision, it's taking longer, and therefore I.
That's water under the bridge. That's my request. Whatever's on your list, have it now. We'll just have more of that customer experience. Wait.
I have you.
On the marketing side, billboards on the Cape Air hangar are further delayed right now. Right Side Design, the firm that they had identified that could do the work has just recently done some billboards for them over in Cadillac, and Right Side Design is very unhappy with the product and therefore doesn't want to move forward with ours until demonstrated ability to have a better product result. We held last week our first joint Contour Manistee marketing meeting, and I have to say, working with Contour, part of Contour, the pleasure, they are very proactive. So, a couple examples. They contacted me while I was on vacation, said, our revenue management team has witnessed, that Manistee isn't performing as well as we'd like. So we're dropping fares to $39 each way for a chunk of time. Never had a carrier that A, dropped fares that low, and B, just is proactively based on their internal goals. That is a pleasure working with them. Their goals are very much aligned with our goals, which is have more people utilize it. Stay there because they were generally operating full planes. Price became, we've got this commodity that every day when it leaves, half those seats are empty, that's right. So they're very much more about filling seats even at a low fare. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Digital campaigns are running. We're sending out an email blast to our email database this week with the United Airlines Interline focus. Contour is doing a Cyber Monday sale that will see prices even lower than that $39. I can't disclose what they are, because I'm promised to. But again, it's just an example of how they try to generate demand or stimulate demand. We as Manistee Airport traditionally have done a winter solstice air promotion. We're talking with them about that, but we may not do it just because they are proactively doing these things themselves. And we may not need yet another scale crammed in. That is the end. So any other questions?
Yeah, the email this week going out to the United Airlines focus, we talked a little while ago about there being a problem with United Airlines.
If you go through our website, go to finance.com, which is what we direct everybody to through all of our marketing, you get through to the United stuff and you can book it. It's just, if you went through Orbit or Travelocity, you could book it. Right now, it's just UA.com. So I haven't seen the copy on that ad is how we're kind of addressing kind of the limitations. But we've been holding off on doing more email marketing because this was going to be the topic of our thing. And let's set the point, we got to get it done.
I've been approached, I don't know what, email you with board numbers. Ask for comment for, really small hole. It's great. If there's, that you're not getting bombarded or Contour, we send 2 memos a month or memo a month, whatever it is. Other one was one book on the AA.com from here to wherever, probably. So there are two issues.
If you can get those to me, routinely pass stuff like that on, but wasn't aware of.
Yeah, no problem. I just didn't know if there was a month, whatever you want. Is marketing is working because it's well in. I just sent a screen what I got. And I wonder, particularly, if we're going to embark on big marketing, that the way that's laid out, it's really tough. And so,
Go ahead. You can give me more details on how you got to do that, because I am aware of that issue on our website. Generally, our marketing isn't to be taken.
that's just it. I'm going to see that now. In my Facebook feed was a link to this.
Right.
So then I clicked that.
Okay.
And then I got these things here. Scrolling through.
I need to know the whole path, because it's very. But it's like me.
Thank you.
The graphics of it.
No, I'm aware of, but.
I was just about to ask you, what was it?
Oh, yeah. I find Manistee.com.
Yeah, I heard that,
But our marketing shouldn't be directing you there. Or on
All right, anything else for Barry? Any more public comment?
And, what is the capacity, or what is the pressure for able to define? How full are they?
The jet fly 30 passengers, and the probably average around 10 to 15 per flight. Well, for October, we were 42% full. Handful of those flights, so very flights, but up to 30, average is around 12.
All right. I think we've all pretty much had our say, but does anyone want to offer any more parting shots? Okay, hearing nothing from anyone, I'll adjourn the meeting at 2:40.